The first light of dawn crept over the edge of the highway, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose. A small roadside diner sat at the corner of Route 9 and Miller's Cross, the kind of place where strangers shared silence over hot coffee and nobody asked too many questions. Steam curled from ceramic mugs. The growl of engines mixed with the smell of motor oil, fried eggs, and worn leather. A group of Iron Brotherhood bikers had pulled in off the highway for breakfast. Broad shoulders, hard eyes, jackets stitched with years of road and story. The kind of men people cross the street to avoid. But here is something most people never stop to consider. The ones who look the toughest have often survived the most. And survival teaches a person something that comfort never can. The laughter between the bikers rolled out across the lot, easy and unguarded. Then it stopped. Everything stopped. A child's cry broke through the morning like a crack through glass. She came sprinting across the gravel, a little girl no older than 6, wearing a yellow dress and boots 2 sizes too big. Her name was Lily. Her hair streamed behind her as she ran, her face wet, her mouth open in a scream that carried something no performance ever could. Pure terror. Pure need. Her small arm shot out, one trembling finger pointing back toward the stretch of road behind her, where a cluster of old mobile homes sat half swallowed by pine trees. "Please," she screamed, her voice breaking. "They're hurting my mama. Somebody please help her." Now here is where real life teaches us something worth carrying long after this story ends. Scientists call it the bystander effect. The more people present during a crisis, the less likely any single one of them is to act. Because each person quietly assumes someone else will step forward first. It is not cruelty, it is psychology. That morning, it showed up right on schedule. Truckers near the fuel pumps turned their heads. A couple at a corner table glanced toward the window. Nobody moved. Nobody, except one man. His name was Deacon Reyes, 41 years old, road-worn and broad-shouldered. He had the kind of stillness that only comes from having already lived through the worst and choosing to keep going anyway. He crossed the lot in 4 strides, dropped to one knee in front of Lily, and steadied her shaking hands with both of his. His voice, rough but carefully quiet, asked only what mattered. "Where is she? Where's your mama?" Lily could barely breathe through the sobbing, but she pointed. Down the road. The trailers. The trees. Deacon stood. His jaw set. He turned to 2 of his brothers and said only 3 words. "Ride with me." Engines roared. Tires bit into gravel. 3 motorcycles shot down Route 9 in a streak of smoke and purpose. The remaining bikers brought Lily inside, wrapping her in a leather jacket so large it covered her like a blanket. She sat pressed against the window, watching the red tail lights shrink into the distance until the road swallowed them whole. 5 minutes passed. The diner had gone almost completely silent. The kind of silence that only exists when a room full of people are holding the same breath. Then, faintly, the sounds drifted back. Shouting. A woman's cry, and then the sharp, deliberate thunder of 3 motorcycles cutting through whatever was happening inside that trailer. What Deacon and his brothers found when they arrived would not leave them easily. A man named Garrett, paroled 3 weeks earlier, had tracked down his former partner, a woman named Sonia, and cornered her against the kitchen wall. His knuckles were already split, her face already bruised. He had his arm raised when the door came in. Deacon crossed the floor before the sound of the door hitting the wall had finished echoing. He caught the man's wrist mid-swing and twisted, hard and clean, forcing a bottle loose from his grip. It hit the floor and shattered. The other 2 had Garrett pinned against the opposite wall before he could draw another breath. No speeches, no threats, just 3 men and the complete, unambiguous language of action. Deacon turned to Sonia. His entire face changed in that single pivot, the hardness folding back to reveal something quieter underneath. "Are you all right, ma'am?" Her voice was gone, but she nodded once, tears running silently. That small nod carried the weight of everything she had survived that morning. Outside, sirens. A neighbour had called it in. When the patrol cars arrived, the three bikers were standing in the yard, calm, hands visible, nothing to hide. Lily had somehow made it down the road and was now pressed against Deacon's leg, one fist twisted into the fabric of his jeans. Sonia stepped forward and told the officers everything. Garrett was placed in handcuffs and walked to the car, and as he passed, not one of the bikers said a word. There was nothing left to say. Here is the second lesson worth keeping. Respect is not given because of appearances. It is earned in the moments when it would be easier and safer to do nothing. Every officer at that scene noticed three men who could have driven away and didn't, who stood in plain sight and waited, who handed a violent man to the law and quietly turned their attention back to a frightened child. That image rewires assumptions without a single argument being made. Deacon walked Lily back to his motorcycle as the morning sun climbed fully above the tree line. She sat across his lap on the ride back, a helmet comically large on her small head, her hands resting on his forearms without any fear at all. He said only a few words to her on that ride, but he meant each one. You were brave. Braver than most adults I know. When they pulled back into the diner lot, a crowd had formed. Locals, truckers, travellers, all waiting. When they saw Deacon ride in with Lily safe and Sonia walking slowly behind him, bruised but standing, the lot fell into a silence that felt almost sacred. Nobody cheered. It was not that kind of moment. It was the other kind, where people feel something quietly reset inside them. Sonia pulled her daughter close and looked at the bikers, unable to find words big enough. Finally she whispered, "I didn't think anyone would come." Deacon looked at Lily and said simply, "She made sure we did." One by one, quietly and without theatre, the Iron Brotherhood removed their jackets and draped them around Sonia and Lily. It was not a performance. It was just what hands do when a person is cold and you have something warm. One of the officers, still lingering by the road, turned away and looked at the asphalt for a long moment. If you have ever seen someone have to look away from something because it hits too close to something good, you know exactly what that means. By midday, the story had moved through the town of Creswick the way genuine stories do, person to person, with the details intact, because nobody needed to exaggerate what had already happened. A local asked Deacon what had made him act, when others hadn't. He was quiet before answering. "You don't calculate something like that," he said. "A child is crying. That is the whole story. Doesn't matter what is on your jacket. That is the third thing worth carrying away from this. Courage is not the absence of hesitation. It is the decision to move anyway." Deacon was not fearless. He was someone who had decided, somewhere along the road of his life, that certain things mattered more than self-preservation. Most people who act in moments like this will tell you the same. They did not feel heroic. They simply felt like they had no other real option. That is character, quiet and bone deep, doing what it always does when the moment arrives. In the weeks that followed, Creswick showed up. Furniture appeared at Sonia's new apartment. Groceries were left on the doorstep. And every Sunday a small group of bikes could be found parked outside the diner, their riders inside at a corner table, coffee going cold, and the sound of a child laughing somewhere nearby, which is, when you think about it, one of the best sounds a Sunday morning can hold. Months later, when the first warm days returned to Creswick, Lily brought something to the diner, running across the lot in new boots that finally fit. She held out a crayon drawing. A row of motorcycles. A little girl in yellow. A large man on one knee, reaching out his hand. "This is us," she said, completely certain. Deacon unfolded it slowly, studied it for a long moment, then folded it back with the care you give to things you intend to keep. He tucked it into the inside pocket of his vest, directly over his chest. "That rides with me from now on," he said. And it did. So here is what this story is really about underneath all of it. You will pass through moments in your life where someone needs help and everyone around you is waiting for someone else to go first. The bystander effect will be working on you just as hard as it works on everyone else. The difference between the person who moves and the person who doesn't is rarely dramatic courage. It is usually just a quiet decision made in advance about what kind of person you intend to be. Deacon did not become that man in the parking lot that morning. He arrived there already. So, the real question, the one worth sitting with today, is this. What are you doing right now, in the ordinary days, to become the person you want to be when an extraordinary moment finally finds you?